is Tim, and I'm here with Randy, my good friend and lifelong Laurel Canyon resident. And today we are going to do a rock and roll walk of some of the most famous yet obscure places in the Kirkwood part of Laurel Canyon. And we started back at the country store. There's actually a lot to see there, which is at the corner of Kirkwood and Laurel Canyon. That's where the Doors, Jim Morrison Love House is. We've made our way up Kirkwood, and this is our first stop. We're pretty excited about it. This is the famous or infamous
Kirkwood Casino, where Glenn Fry and Don Henley used to have late night card games after watching Monday Night Football.
That's right. And this was probably circa 73, 74, somewhere around then. So they were already doing okay by then. We're on the corner of Ridpath and Kirkwood. And again, man, this was like the home of country rock circa, you know, the early 70s. Linda Ronstadt, you know, Jack Tempchin. Joni Mitchell. We know where the Flying Burrito Brothers were here because I've heard about some of the card games that went on. So a lot of the information that came from here came from like a poker blog. So that's how into it they were. Yeah. But anyways, the late, great Glenn Fry, right here. All right, we're gonna make our way up Ridpath right now. This is kind of a, you know, a lot of turns and twists on this thing. Like I said, we're looking for the most obscure places we can. And I think some of them we don't know the addresses yet, by the way, or exactly where they may be, so we're gonna find out. All right, folks, we're in front of a pretty infamous house right here. This is, we're on Ridpath, and this house right here is where in 1940, I think it was August 31st, 1948, Robert Mitchum was with a couple other people, and they got busted for marijuana, if you can believe that. And I think he served time over it, too.
Yeah. The original Laurel Canyon story.
Right.
You know, the bust, the Robert Mitchum bust on Ridpath. The first one.
Yeah,
predating the rock and roll by like
well, hey,
20
man,
years.
Little did he know, man. He was way ahead of his time.
He was a trailblazer. This is where Neil Young lived and John Densmore. Probably at the same time, but we have to. Yeah,
we don't know if they overlapped or not here, but
we'll find out. But
I don't think it looked quite like this at the time because it was known as the Shack. Yeah. So it looks like to me like it's the original, and somebody from the Disney animation
Disney
went crazy and had a big fat wallet. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
But really cool stuff.
Cool,
and I know Neil Young lived here when he first started playing with those guys. You know, when they first got together, because. You know, their manager lives right down the street, which is going to be our next stop, actually. The whole original Buffalo Springfield. So this is one of the houses that we're really waiting to see. That's hilarious, man.
Chile.
The Consulate of Chile now.
I didn't know they were up here.
Well, no, this used to be the Billy James house. Billy James was a publicist for Elektra Records, Columbia Records. He originally signed the Doors to Columbia, and it didn't work out, and then they went to Elektra, and he had something to do with that too. But he was a guy that was also a patron of a lot of musical artists. We know Jackson Browne lived here for a short time. Yeah, this is it.
8510.
We are looking at one of the most infamous party houses also in Laurel Canyon right here. This was, like I said, Barry Friedman, Fraser Mohawk, whatever you want to call him. And this is where Stephen Stills lived here for a short time. So did Richie Furay. And Buffalo Springfield used to frequent this. You know, they were involved with it. They used to play here and write songs. This is another house that's on the list. Paul Rothchild's house. This is us, right? Yeah. All right, we're going on Walnut. We're going down here. Briar right now, and we do know that Robbie Krieger lived up here for a short time when the Doors, when he first moved out from his parents. He said he moved down to Briar. We had heard that Eric Burden lived in the Kirkwood part of the canyon. We had heard he moved here on Briar, but we can't find an address for it. Over 50, 60 years, this stuff like you know, seeps through the cracks, you know what I'm saying? The next stop is going to be Elliot Mintz. Elliot Mintz was the...
John Lennon's publicist.
Right. He was John Lennon. He was Dylan's publicist too. And we think John Lennon and May Pang were hanging up there during his long lost weekend quite a bit too, because that's when those guys kind of got together. Anyways, we're in Oak Court right now.
And this is where the infamous John Lennon lived during the 70s. He was here, his publicist
Elliot
Mintz was here, and he was good friends with him. And Yoko wanted him to stay here because she knew he would be safe here.
Yeah, she had a relationship with Elliot Mintz somehow, just on a professional level.
Yes,
and
professional.
She knew him, and she knew this house. I mean, how prophetic. This house was, she felt safe from whatever. And the circumstances that he was out here in the 70s was, it was just after he had made Mind Games, I know that. And he was, I think he was making rock and roll. That was the Lost Weekend, they called it.
The Lost Weekend. And he was hanging out a lot with Harry Nilsson.
Yeah.
So that's probably when they were going to the Troubadour, and he was staying here with Elliot for some time. And also he was staying in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
The People Offered House.
What's interesting about this is we kind of knew that Elliot Mintz, we weren't sure if John Lennon had stayed here, but I won't point it out, but we talked to a neighbor here who was very sweet and nice, and she kind of gave us the skinny about, he stayed here a lot. So there is another point of rock and roll history right here, and it's a pretty good one too. This house right here with the elevator and way up there was the home of Jim Ladd.
Yes.
The famous DJ who's still on Sirius. I listen to him all the time.
Yes.
And I know he interviewed George Harrison because I listened to it. And apparently pretty much, I know Tom Petty was up there, and Tom Petty wrote The Last DJ about him. So, and it is right next door to the Elliot Mintz, John Lennon house. And it's, even though we're in the city, it's eerily quiet here, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it's like a little pocket at the very, very end. So it is quite private.
Good luck getting up there after a few beers.